Consciousness. In this video we take a look at consciousness and how consciousness works in this universe. To understand consciousness we have to go back to the beginning. We have to understand the fundamental components of our existence. There are four main fundamental components of our existence. They are atoms, energy, time, and consciousness. These four fundamental components of our existence cannot be created or destroyed. The other fundamental components in our universe, such as the photon, dark energy, dark matter, the fundamental subatomic particles, genetics, the laws of chemistry and the laws of physics, all support these four main components to function. 1. Atoms. Everything around us, including our bodies, our brain, planets, and every form of matter is made up of atoms. So atoms are the primary fundamental components of our existence. By the unique arrangement of three components, the neutrons, protons, and electrons, the atoms of each element represents information in our reality. As science knows today, any type of atom is more than 99.99% empty space. Your consciousness reads the information these atoms represent. Your consciousness is designed to not see the empty space. I believe in the future science will discover an atom is 100% empty space. Atoms cannot be created nor destroyed. 2. Energy. Energy is also information. Energy is a fundamental component of our existence. Energy has the power to change the information the atoms represent. Energy is the most important component in this universe. Without energy there will be no life forms, there will be no suns or stars. Without energy, even atoms cannot exist. The atoms are made of different forms of energy. Without energy, this whole universe cannot exist. Energy is also a type of information. Energy is information that can create change to the information within the atom. There are many different forms of energy, such as thermal, light, motion, electrical, chemical, magnetical, gravitational, and many more. Energy is just the ability of an entity to create a change in the information the atoms represent. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. 3. Time. Time is also information. The force of time provides information about the pace of change of everything in this universe. The components of the atom are constantly vibrating, or the components of the atom are changing locations within the atom. There is time and timing within the atom. It's the force of time that provides the components of the atom the information needed to change the location at a given interval. Every atom of different elements is vibrating at different speeds. Every life form has a lifespan because there is time encoded in the genetics of all creatures. Everything in this universe has a lifespan because everything is bound to time. Time is information on how everything must change from one state to another. If you take the photon, every photon in this universe travels at a specific speed, which is the speed of light. Every photon in this universe travels at the same speed because the force of time exerts its information on every photon to control the timing of the movement of the photon. If two objects with different weights were dropped from a particular height in a vacuum, the time it takes for both objects to fall will be the same. The force of time is controlling the falling speed. In this case, time and gravity are both controlling both objects. To make it simpler, imagine the force of time to be like a master pulse, something similar to a beat in a song, and this pulse information controls everything in this universe. The force of time is like a pulsating signal that controls the changing positions of everything in this universe. This time information controls the moving speeds of the components of the atoms to the movement of planets. All the energy in this universe is bound to this time pulse information. Light travels at a certain speed, sound travels at a certain speed, an object moving towards gravity travels at a certain speed, the components within an atom are moving at a certain speed. This is possible because everything is bound to time. Time is information that controls the change in this universe. Time cannot be created nor destroyed. 4. Consciousness. This universe was created for different forms of consciousnesses to react with atoms and energy. This universe is an assembly of different forms of energy. Your consciousness is also a form of energy which is a component of this assembly. Consciousness is an authorization to interact with atoms and energy. In other words, your consciousness is an authorization by the Creator's software to understand atoms and energy, and to move atoms and energy around. Consciousness comes in two parts, intention and awareness. Consciousness is the ability of an entity to process information in the form of awareness and change information in the form of an intention. Consciousness is intent or the ability to change something how it wants. There are many levels of consciousness. For example, a plant is more conscious than a rock, a caterpillar is more conscious than a plant, a cat or dog is more conscious than a caterpillar, and humans are more conscious than a cat or dog. The more conscious a living entity is, the more intent it can deliver. The more conscious a life form is, the more aware it is. The more aware it is, the more intent it has. The more intent it has, the more changes it can cause to the environment it's living in. Imagine consciousness is like energy with intention. Consciousness comes in many forms. As we know, even the atom is conscious. An atom knows how and when to exchange electrons. The atoms are aware when they are close to other atoms and they know the potential difference of electrons of other atoms. Atoms communicate with each other. Plants are conscious of sunlight and water. Plants grow leaves to face the sun and they grow roots to access water. Plants hunt insects that land on them. Animals are conscious enough to move and explore an area of the environment. Different animals behave differently because they possess different kinds of consciousness. Each different animal has its unique senses and instincts that compel them to behave in a certain manner. Some creatures such as honeybees are conscious enough just to do the same repetitive action all their life. Each animal runs on its uniquely programmed consciousness. There is scientific proof that consciousness can exist even in creatures without a brain. And there is no scientific proof that consciousness is in the brain. Plants are conscious. There are many creatures such as microorganisms with no brain that are conscious. The only thing science has established is that creatures with a brain have a greater degree of consciousness and a greater degree of decision-making capacity. On Earth, humans have the most advanced consciousness. Humans are conscious enough to learn and store that learning to be used in the teaching process of future generations. So consciousness is being aware of information and the ability to process that information at different levels at different strengths. Consciousness is a form of information that can process information and change information around it the way it wants. Consciousness cannot be created and cannot be destroyed. There is consciousness in everything around us. To be conscious is to be able to interact with atoms and energy. To better understand this, let me tell you an amazing true story that will help you understand consciousness better. There was once a walking stick used by someone I knew. This walking stick, which was beautifully polished and crafted, was a birthday gift and was used as a walking aid for over 25 years. After this person died, this very old walking stick ended up as a stick in the garden and was used to prop up a vine. After a few months, this 25-year-old walking stick that was planted in the dirt had sprouted a few leaves and then in a few more months, it became a small tree. This was an amazing observation that made me realize how amazing nature and the atoms in the walking stick were. Something we used as an object for 25 years was a conscious and living entity that could interact with energy when it was provided with the right elements. The walking stick, which was originally part of a tree and was used as an object for over 25 years, was aware that it needed soil, water, and sunlight to become a tree again. The stick has no brain, but it was aware and had the DNA to become the living tree it once was. How can this happen? How did the walking stick know to bear leaves at the top part of the stick and roots at the bottom part of the stick? This is atomic awareness. The atomic formation that made up the stick was aware. When these atoms got the necessary elements and the opportunity to participate in a chemical reaction, they did it on their own. This walking stick was once a part of a tree, and that DNA became active to start reproducing that tree. Before you read the above, if I showed you a wooden walking stick and asked you, is this alive? Is this stick aware and conscious about its environment? What would you answer? You will say no, right? But now you understand consciousness better. Everything around you is conscious, beginning from the atoms that make you to all the animals around you are conscious. A living organism is an entity that has the ability to react with atoms and energy, learn and make decisions. Consciousness comes in many levels. The most basic consciousness is the case with atoms. Atoms communicate with other atoms to perform certain tasks, such as exchanging electrons or changing the speed of the internal components. The consciousness of the atom is deterministic and lacks choice. The atoms have no choice but to obey the pre-programmed set of rules on what they do and how they react with other atoms. How they repel or exchange electrons with each other or change the vibration speed of their components when they react to heat or cold is all in the software program the atoms are bound to. This definitive interaction the atoms perform is based on the Creator's programming. This definitive programming gives stability to the most fundamental component in our consciousness, and this stability provides stability to our reality. Just like when you give the walking stick the right conditions to sprout leaves, the atoms have no choice but to do what they are programmed to do. It's the programming that makes the atoms conscious and aware. Every consciousness above the level of an atom has the ability to learn and to make decisions. If you take a plant, it learns which side the sun is and grows leaves towards the sun. Take for instance bacteria or viruses, they learn and make decisions such as moving their body parts. Microorganisms can also decide to speed up or slow down their reproduction or even change their RNA if required. Some microorganisms are aware of their volume in a particular location and increase their reproduction speed when their volumes get depleted. Some microorganisms are actively moving. Microorganisms are capable of putting up a defense when they are threatened. Some viruses can infect a host and then use the resources in the host's body for their own reproduction. This is awareness. Look around you, everything you see is information. Atoms are information. Energy in the universe is information that changes the information within atoms. Think of consciousness as information. Information that has the power to change information around you. Consciousness is also a form of energy interacting with information. This conscious energy or this conscious information has two characteristics, which are intent and awareness. Intent is the most powerful form of energy in the universe. Even the Creator has intent. It's His intention that created us. Think of intent as an energy that can create change. Our intent can do three things. 1. Our intent can move atoms. 2. Our intent can create chemical reactions. 3. Our intent can transfer energy. Everything you do with your consciousness falls into these three possibilities. For example, think of moving your hand. You transfer energy in the form of electrons to cause a chemical reaction, and you move the atoms that make your hand. As a simple example, when we eat something we do all three. Our consciousness or our intent can move atoms, create chemical reactions and transfer energy. When you eat something, for example, a potato, The energy of the sun which was stored in the potato becomes a part of your body. Think of intent as an energy that can change information around you. These bits of information get together and exchange electrons to change the information the atoms represent. The atoms exchange electrons when our intent puts atoms together. So our intent is a form of energy or a form of information that is creating change in the information around us. With our modern-day technology, we have extended the power of our intent. Now with technology, our intent can move atoms, to cause chemical reactions and cause the transfer of energy in other planets. We have sent exploration equipment to Mars and we control them with radio waves, which is an extension of our intent and awareness far away from Earth. The other part of consciousness is awareness. Awareness is the ability to understand the change of information around yourself. Again, think of an atom as a bit of information and a chemical reaction as a change or a transfer of some of the components of the atom. This physical change to the components of the atom changes the information the atoms represent. Now imagine your consciousness is aware of the information the atoms represent, and your consciousness is aware when there is a change to that information. Your consciousness depends on all your senses. Every one of your senses are nothing but chemical reaction and atomic location monitors. A photon, which is like a packet of energy, hits the retina in your eye. Your eye unpacks this information and there is a chemical reaction within your eye. This chemical reaction becomes an electrical impulse which causes more chemical reactions in your brain. So what exactly happened? Billions and billions of electrons changed places. And your consciousness made sense of that movement of electrons. The same thing with your ear. When the eardrum moves, it creates chemical reactions that create electrical impulses, which go to your brain and your consciousness makes sense of it. It's the same with all your other senses. Your consciousness is making sense of this transfer of electrons or the movement of atoms. In other words, your consciousness is understanding the information the atoms are representing. To further understand the awareness part of your consciousness, think of a simple example. Imagine there is an apple and an orange on the table in front of you. Visualize the apple and the orange. Now visualize the apple and the orange are both made of neutrons, protons, and electrons. The neutrons, protons, and electrons are arranged differently in each fruit. Now you understand in the arrangement of the atoms, both of these fruits represent information. When you smell, when you taste, when you feel and when you see these two fruits, your consciousness knows there is a difference. Even if you drop the two fruits, the sound it makes is different. Your conscious awareness of what you smell, what you taste, what you feel, what you see and what you hear is because your consciousness is processing all the atomic information. The two different atomic arrangements of the two fruits are beaming different smell and taste information. The two different atomic arrangements of the two fruits are transferring different atomic formation information to your sense of touch. You see different fruits because all the photons hitting these fruits are collecting information on the different atomic arrangements of the two fruits. When you drop the fruits, the different vibrations they create is the atomic disturbance information. The atoms are 99.99% empty, so in the apple and the orange, there is absolutely nothing but empty space. Your consciousness is making sense of the information the atoms around you are presenting. There is nothing but information around you. When understanding consciousness, you have to go by what the latest scientific research shows us. The atom is 99.99% empty space. The atom has almost nothing but information within it. An atom is information in the way the neutrons, protons, and electrons are arranged in each type of atom. Your consciousness sees this information as mass or as matter. This is because the software we are running on is programmed to process this information in this way. As we read in the first chapter, there are many subatomic particles within and around the atom. These subatomic particles are like the symbols in a mathematical equation. A mathematical equation has numbers or values, and there are symbols such as the addition symbol, the multiplication symbol, and brackets. These subatomic particles are like these symbols that help to make sense of the information in the equation. For example, the subatomic particle called gluon acts like a glue holding various atomic parts together, just like a bracket holds certain parts of information in a mathematical equation together. You need to understand here is that the atom is 99.99% empty space. Even the subatomic particles are empty, and what substance we think is there is so minuscule even with our latest technology we really can't see it. The atom and all the subatomic particles are information represented in different formations of energy. What your consciousness sees as matter is information that is arranged using different forms of energy. Your consciousness is also a form of energy information. Your consciousness is information that causes change in the information in this universe. Your consciousness is also a part of the energy assembly we call reality. All content in this video was excerpts from the book The Real Creator, available at Amazon Kindle. The link to the book is provided in the description below.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. We value your feedback.